What about Bunny Greenhouse? Well, after she objected to that Halliburton contract, she was demoted for what the Army said was her poor work performance. Meanwhile, one of Bunny's old colleagues at the Pentagon moved on to a top job with Halliburton.
That's the way they saw me, as a troublemaker, as a skunk at the picnic. But it was absolutely the most blatant disregard, you know, for the federal procurement law and the process that I had ever seen in all of the years that I'd worked in government contracting.
Reggie Lane, the KBR trucker, will be in a care home for the rest of his days. The company offered Linda a Freedom Medal and a $25,000 payment, dependent on signing a legal waiver. She refused and is suing KBR.
I've never seen anybody come in here to see how he's doing, you know, from KBR. To say, hey, Reggie, what do you need? How are you doing? There are no words that can describe what I've been through with the man I love.
KBR split from Halliburton, and they've won part of another big Army contract in Iraq, worth $50 billion. KBR declined our request for an interview. The British government awarded a contract to supply our troops in Iraq as well. It went to KBR. Alan Grayson, the whistleblower's lawyer, will be fighting his war for many years to come. Some would say you've stood for Congress as a Democrat. You have a political axe to grind, and that's why you attack the Bush administration over this question of contract fraud.
I think that if anybody, any human being, knew what I know about the war in Iraq, they would feel the same way about the war in Iraq as I do. The only people who have actually benefited from the war in Iraq are the Iranians, Al-Qaeda, and Halliburton.
And when people look back on the Iraq war and the reconstruction effort, and they say war profiteering, that's what it was about, the privatization of a war, what do you think?
I don't agree. I don't see an agenda that overarched this process, which you would have to assume in order to reach that conclusion. The outcomes there, as everyone knows, have been mixed, but it's taken a while, and it's been a tough process.
The Iraqi people don't have electricity, even in Baghdad, most of the time. They don't have safe drinking water. But the money that's gone into waste, fraud, and abuse under these contracts is just so outrageous. It's so egregious. It may well turn out to be the largest war profiteering in history.
US and Iraqi government agencies have come up with a series of figures for what's been stolen, what's missing, and not properly accounted for. We've pieced them together.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April and shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune. When I'm back on top in June, I said that's life. That's life. And it's funny as it may seem, some people get their kicks stomping on a dream, but I don't let it get me down.
Great. Tilt-away steering wheel.
Even the clouds are brighter.
North Star was small time compared to what some of America's biggest corporate names began to fritter away in Iraq. Congress appointed
And we're interrupting our normal programming here on BBC World News to bring you the very latest of the ongoing story in Gaza, the conflict going on between the Israeli military and Gaza. We're getting reports, eyewitness reports, talking about a mosque being hit in northern Gaza. Our correspondent inside Gaza, who's been tracking this story for us for a week now, is Rushdie Abu Alouf. Rushdie, what's happened here, do we think?
Yeah, so far witnesses and medical sources is talking about Israeli airstrike targeting a mosque called Ibrahim al-Makadma mosque. According to witnesses, the mosque was full of people doing the noon prayer or the evening prayer. They are expecting around 200 people were inside the mosque. It's not one of the main mosques. It's a small mosque. It belongs to one of the neighborhoods in the north of Gaza Strip. So far, hundreds of ambulances and firefighters are rushed to the place, and they have started to clear rubble under and evacuating injuries and dead body from the hospital. Hospital so far confirming 10 people killed.
In terms of the military campaign that's now been going on for more than 7 days, Rushdie, because we're into week 2 of this, has this particular area of Gaza been hit or hit a lot in the past 7 days?
Yes, the north of Gaza Strip today was extremely hit. We heard from sources in Hamas that only from tanks 100 missile was landed in the place, and more than 50 Israeli airstrikes targeting Gaza, across Gaza, but particularly in the north, more than 30 Israeli airstrikes targeted different places. The house was hit, several buildings, the American school was hit in that place, and the mosque. Israel have targeted 8 mosques before, but all of them, they were empty, and they used to target places not in the praying time.
We were playing in some of the latest pictures that we have here at Television Centre as you were talking to us there, Rushdie. We're not saying that what people are looking at there in those pictures are pictures of this actual mosque coming under bombardment. We've also heard a lot in the past week, Rushdie, about how the hospitals and the medical staff in Gaza cannot cope. When it comes to the level of medical care available in this specific area, how well catered for are Gazans?
The area was, as I said, extremely attacked by different places, from air, from the beach, from tanks outside Gaza. So we are talking about paramedics are struggling to get injuries. In half an hour ago, there was one man was killed. He was left bleeding inside his house for 2 hours, according to medical sources in Gaza, because the medics are not able to operate or to function in such these circumstances. Tanks are outside, planes are flying over, drones everywhere, so it's not easy. And we have to remember that 2 days ago, one of the paramedics and the doctor, they were killed during the evacuation of the injuries.
Rushdie Abu Alouf live in Gaza. Rushdie, thanks very much. And just to reiterate there, those pictures that we were showing you, they were the pictures that we've been garnering and gathering together, if you will, over the past few hours, daytime pictures from Gaza. We're not saying that what those pictures were showing us was pictures of this actual mosque coming under attack. But just to recap on what Rushdie was telling us, there have been several targeted attacks on mosques since this campaign began. We're now into week 2. We're heading into day 8. This is the first time that we know of, within the past few days, that a mosque has been very, very, very busy. Lots of people inside that building, and the eyewitness reports talking about several people having lost their lives, including women and children. We'll have more on that story for you between now and the top of the hour. That's in 19 minutes' time. Stay with us here on BBC World News. We'll return you now to our normal scheduled programming.
Spree. But did they go for the market leaders in military hardware? No, they went to Poland.
They signed contracts in Poland to buy aeroplanes, to buy ambulances, to buy armored personnel carriers, to buy ammunition. The money was paid out, but the equipment was never delivered, or when it was delivered, it was faulty or obsolete and rotten.
Shalan's gang bought bargain basement hardware, but they claimed for top-class stuff. They diverted the ministry's funds into a company called, appropriately, the Ever-Flowing Spring, It channeled money into their own bank accounts.